Hi, I'm Karen Morgan. I'm a volunteer with AARP Maryland, and I'm here to bring you another in a series of conversations that we are having about legal issues that basically can affect people who are age 50, 60, and older. We're calling this our Senior Legal Chat Facebook series, and it will be available on Facebook. It'll be available on the AARP Maryland YouTube channel and also through Senior Legal Services. So with me today is Tracy Steedman, and she is a volunteer with Senior Legal Services, and she also is a very very much of an expert lawyer, very renowned lawyer in the construction area. She has more than 18 years of experience in an industry where predominantly men are the ones that stand out. She's one of the most distinguished construction lawyers in the state of Maryland. And in her amazingly small spare time, she also finds time to provide pro bono legal services to senior citizens and to veterans in Maryland. And she also mentors young women in Baltimore City through the Sister Circle. Tracy, we are so happy to have you here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Karen.
And we are here today to discuss Real ID. But before we get to that, let me just remind you about what we've been doing with our Senior Legal Chat Facebook series. We started in March. We'll be continuing through November. And we're covering all sorts of topics that can basically trip up people who are ages 50, 60, and older. We've talked about tax sales, advanced planning, avoiding eviction. We've also talked about financial exploitation and abuse. Today, we're talking about Real ID. And in October and November, we'll be covering scams and debt collection. So stay tuned for what's coming up. And if you missed any of our previous chats, you can go to the AARP Maryland Facebook page or the YouTube channel to catch up. So with that, let me just say a word about Senior Legal Services. Senior Legal Services is a pro bono service for low-income seniors. And Senior Legal Services gives direct legal services and outreach at Baltimore senior citizens, sometimes in people's homes. And they target people who are ages 60 and older, and you have to be a resident of Baltimore City to qualify for their services. The Bar Association of Baltimore City provides financial support, and they do amazing work and provide amazing service. And what we want to do with the Senior Legal Services Facebook series is kind of get the word out beyond Baltimore City to seniors about issues that can affect them. So today we're talking about Real ID because, as it happens, it's coming. And there's nothing you can do about it. So the best thing we can do is to figure out what's happening and what we need to do to comply with the fascinating new world of Real ID. So Tracy, why don't you tell us about Real ID? Apparently Maryland's been compliant since 2011, but what does that mean?
Right. So, before we go a deep dive in the Real ID, I just want to say that Karen and I have talked about this. The system is a little bit confusing, and some of the requirements are a little confusing, and it's not clearly provided on the NBA website, but there is information there. And since Karen and I are confused by the system and how to get it done, I think everybody is, and the NBA seems to think it's very clear to people. So that's why I'm here. So I think one of the things is, what is a Real ID? It's your driver's license, but now it's security enhanced. Now, prior to now, you could use your regular driver's license to get on a plane at the airport. And now your regular driver's license will not allow you to do that. So it's a security enhanced ID that requires you to submit certain documents to show that you are basically who you are. Before you can get on a plane and before you can access federal facilities, like a military base or a courthouse and the like. And that was started by TSA after 9/11. That's a little bit of the history. So that's what it is.
Okay. So we have these real IDs, which basically means that extra steps have been taken to verify by a government that you are actually who you say you are. So when is the deadline to be real ID compliant in Maryland?
Okay, so in Maryland, it's May 3rd, 2023. So after that date, Maryland residents are required to have a real ID if you want to get on a plane. Now, um, it's a little bit confusing because if you have a passport and your regular driver's license that's not expired, you can still get on a plane. If you have global entry, you can still get on a plane. And when I say we're talking your driver's license would get you on a domestic flight, obviously not an international flight. If you have TSA pre-check um, and you don't have a real ID um, or a passport, you will not be able to get on the plane. Now, lots of people don't fly. And so I think the requirement is a little bit onerous for everyone. And then a lot of people don't have to access federal facilities. So it seems logically that people should be able to get a non-real ID compliant driver's license. And in fact, other states are issuing those. Maryland does issue them, but only for immigrants and people who show that they don't have a social security number. But it's usually both of those things. It's usually you're an immigrant and you don't have a social security number, not either or. So it's very limited circumstances.
So it's interesting that some states would choose to issue driver's licenses after the deadline that are not necessarily real ID for those people who don't need real ID, because not everybody needs real ID, as you just pointed out. If you don't need to enter a federal facility, and it could now. I mean, what about post offices? I mean, you don't need. What if you need to present ID at a post office? Is that considered a federal facility?
It's not all federal facilities, it's certain ones. And it doesn't, there's no list anywhere out there.
Of course not.
Right, that says which one is. Does the Veterans Hospital count? Well, the Veterans Hospital, usually if you're going there, you are a veteran. So a veteran ID actually gets you anything that you want. Like if you are a veteran or an active military, you are eligible to get a real ID without further proving documentation because you've already done that to get into the military.
Mm-hmm. And that makes a lot of sense. But I mean, I guess I would speculate that probably Maryland decided to just verify, go through the extra steps to verify mostly everybody with real ID, and it would be too complicated to maintain a I don't need a real ID, sort of track, and a real ID, I need a real ID track. Maybe that's why.
Right.
So how do you tell if your current license is a real ID license?
Well, the initial advice would be look to see if there's a star on the top right of your driver's license. However, Maryland was issuing real IDs since 2011, and they were not verifying the paperwork prior to that. So now there's a status tool. Correct. Oh yeah, you can show it. Yeah. There's a status tool.
There's that little star. I feel so special. Which doesn't mean that much, as it turns out, because that may not mean that I really have real ID.
Correct. I actually double checked my status, even though I know I took my stuff. I think it was 2020 when I actually got mine. Because I don't know if you recall, there was a deadline of October 1st, 2020, right? Everybody was freaking out.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Right. And that had been put in place prior to the world shutting down in March or April, right? Mm-hmm. And so the MVA was taking appointments, right? But there was limited number of people, they were closed. You were not going to walk in there. And I remember taking all my documentation in, even though I had a passport, because my thought is if I have a passport, why should I have to take other documents in?
The rest of the stuff. Exactly.
Right. And I actually, it's kind of a funny story to me, but when I got out of my car with my paperwork, I felt kind of afraid because I thought, what if someone steals all my documentation that I have certified, I've paid for, right? Because you don't have everything that you need besides a utility bill or something like that. And someone comes up and I just felt not protected when I was
Yeah,
walking from my car.
vulnerable, you
Vulnerable. Yes,
know?
yes,
Oh my
yes.
goodness. I totally get
So
that.
but the way to actually confirm that you have a real ID is you go on the MBA website, and it's called the Real ID status tool, and you put in
Mhm.
your driver's license number, and it says you don't need to submit any more documentation, or you do.
Mhm.
And right.
Yes, that's what I did today, Tracy. Because I'm looking at this star and I'm like, it looks like a real ID star, but I don't know. So I went to the website and because I couldn't, because I think I actually renewed my license like a couple of years ago too. So it's like I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I must have brought the required documentation, but I don't remember. I mean, a whole world
Right.
has happened since then. So
Right.
so I went to the site and I got the magic. You don't need to do anything else. Yay.
Right.
I'm real.
Right.
I'm not fake. I'm a real person.
Right.
So um but I guess the takeaway is that you need to go to that site even if you have a star. It depends on when your license was issued. Just go to the site and verify. Just and if frankly or thankfully the MVA makes it simple. It's either yes or no.
Right.
So at least there's no confusion about that.
Right.
Cool. So now, okay, so there are people out there who have driver's licenses. What if they expire in June or July of 2023? What are they supposed to do?
So if you're a person that your driver's license is expiring after the date, you can still drive on that license. You are not going to get a ticket or pulled over for not having a real ID after that time. You just won't be able to get on a plane with that driver on a domestic flight with that driver's license. If you have a passport, you can still fly. Um, and so if you're not planning on flying and you don't have a passport, you can still use your driver's license until it expires. Now, the point of, you can upgrade prior to the
Mm-hmm.
expiration. You can wait till after. But one of the things in the description of our webinar today is that if you are concerned about not having all your documentation, you should start working on it sooner rather than later. Um, so say for example, it costs $20 to upgrade, but you don't have a copy of your marriage license or a death certificate because your name changed because your husband died,
Your spouse died
or
or
your original birth certificate. Some people don't have that, and I'm going to talk about the alternatives later, but the it's better to start trying to gather this information, because I've worked on with seniors where it took us up to 6 months to get the information because they were born in another state and they didn't have a birth certificate. They were born in a doctor's office, not in a hospital. And
mm-hmm.
so things vary based on where you're born and your age. Um, and so it's important to start thinking about it, because they will not renew your driver's license without the information that they are going to be requiring.
Right. And if you're driving and your license is about to expire, it's going to be really important to get, even if you don't care about entering federal facilities, you need your driver's license. The only way to get a driver's license after May 3rd, 2023 is to have it issued under Real ID protocols and standards. Otherwise, they're not
Right,
giving you one in the state of
right.
Maryland anyway.
Yeah, and I would recommend. I did hear something from Senior Legal Services saying that a lot of their senior clients are just driving on expired licenses because they haven't gotten the documentation or haven't sought help to do that. And so, Karen, you know as well as I know, you can call Senior Legal Services and they will get someone to help you with collecting that information.
Yes, you can if your age is 60 and older and you live in Baltimore City. Otherwise, there may be like legal services, pro bono legal services available in your county. If you don't live in Baltimore City, there may be other sort of pro bono legal services available that can help you with that. Because I mean, it's just interesting, and this is just a collateral damage of being in the information age, but the need to verify who you are has never been more important, and the difficulty in actually doing it has never been more profound.
Right. And a lot of the expectation is that seniors have access to the internet, number one, and number two, are computer proficient. And that's challenging, for a lot of people.
It sure is. It sure is. I mean, my dad didn't have to worry about that, but if he was somebody who never wanted to touch a computer. So I don't know how, and he was born in the 30s. So I don't know how we would have managed that, but so yeah, I mean, these are things that are important. And unfortunately, you need to have access to the internet, or you need to get someone to help you access the internet in a secure way too. So that you're not, subjecting yourself to, hackers or that sort of thing. So what if your existing driver's license expires before May 3rd, 2023?
So what the MVA says is that you can renew your license up to a year before expiration.
Okay.
I don't know anybody that's done that. But if, say, they don't have a passport and they want to fly before that date, fly after that date, it just makes sense. Or fly before that date. No, you can fly before that date. I don't know. I'm just thinking, this is a Maryland date. Is this the federal date?
Yes, the May 3rd, 2023 is a Maryland date.
It's a Maryland date. Okay. The fact that you have a year to do it, I think, is helpful because, like we were just talking, it might take a while to get your information if you don't have immediate access to it. And we'll talk about at the end of this alternative things if you don't have your original birth certificate and things like that.
So let's talk about what documents are required that you will need to bring to the MVA. You need Real ID, you need it. You're at the MVA. What do you need to bring with you?
Right. And so you do have to go in person. There's no way to do any of this online at this point. And prior to going, you have to make an appointment, which we'll talk about in a second. But there's 4 things you need to bring. Well, 3 things, but 4 documents. Proof of age and identity. So you bring your birth certificate, or you can bring a passport. You can bring your permanent resident card and other things like adoption records. That's not the whole list of things, but I was trying to do kind of a gamut of different people's experiences. The second thing, you have to bring proof of Social Security. And so that's your Social Security card. That could be a W-2. That could be the Social Security, a 1099, or one of your pay stubs that usually has your Social Security number on it. I think this is one of those situations. I brought my Social Security card, but also my W-2 and something else just in case. I don't know, and then 2 proofs that you're a Maryland resident. So you need a utility bill, your bank account statement, vehicle registration, a cable bill, your lease, mortgage, things like that. But you need to bring 2 of those. And those are the things that you need to show the MVA. Now, what they do is they scan it while you're there and they give you back everything. So you leave with all the documents that you brought in.
That's good.
And I learned while I was doing a little bit more research on the Real ID and birth certificates, because to me, the birth certificate seems to be the biggest problem. Was you can obtain a copy of your birth certificate if you were born in Maryland from certain MVA branches. So Baltimore City, Essex, and other places you can. But the Baltimore City one, if you go there, they can give you a copy of your birth certificate if you're born in Maryland. And I thought that was interesting. I don't know what the fee is related to that. I didn't get that far into it. But if you're not born in Maryland, you can contact the state where you're born. Their vital records department has a copy of your birth certificate.
And let me just say something about that, because I ran into this situation with a family member who needed a birth certificate and didn't have one. There are commercial sites out there that will offer to intervene on your behalf to get you your birth certificate. And they usually sell it by saying we can get it for you extra fast, because usually people want it quickly. But be wary of those commercial sites. some of them may not even be legitimate, and you're putting in very personal information to get this birth certificate. So you really want to be careful. But even if the site is legitimate, what these commercial sites don't tell you, or what they tend to hide, is that whether they can actually get you your birth certificate information depends on the laws of the state. There are some states that will not allow a third party to access birth control information, doesn't matter who it is. So you personally have to intercede. You have to make your own application in your own state to get this. And my personal advice would be, don't do commercial sites. Just go to your state, go to that state's website if you weren't born in Maryland, or go to Vital Records here in Maryland, and just, work directly with them. Don't go through a third party.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the alternative documents that will be accepted if a person's older, say they're older than the age 65, they don't have access to all of the required documents, or they're having trouble collecting them.
Right. And so there is an option under the MBA that says if you're 65 or older, there's alternative documents that you can provide to be able to get approved for the Real ID. And so here they are. I don't think they're the best. I mean, like I said earlier, if you are in the military, you are golden, which is good. We need to have people that serve in our military to be able to get, easily access things.
They need to be golden after their service. That's the least we can do.
Right. So if you're over 65 and you can't provide your birth certificate, you can provide the following things. So you have a DD 214, which is the military discharge document, or your Social Security Administration benefits summary that has your full name and date of birth. But that has to be combined with a U.S. hospital certificate of live birth, or so the hospitals have a certificate of a live birth, but it's not considered your birth certificate. So it's a record that you were actually born with your name on it and date of birth.
Wait a minute, let me stop you there, Tracy, because that's key information. So you can have a certificate of live birth, and that's not the same as a birth certificate?
Correct. It's not the
same.
So what the hospital does is they make this, piece of paper that says Joe Blow was born on this date, this time, right? And I guess the parents' names are on there. They submit that to the vital records departments of the state, and then they create the birth certificate.
Wow.
So, right. So apparently, even though, so the hospital certificate of live birth, that's why it needs to be combined with your Social Security benefits summary. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And whether hospitals kept that information because they didn't really need to do that except for statistics. 30 babies born on January 1st in 1971 or whatever, right? What I read was they don't keep that information, but apparently if they did, the thing is, it only applies if you were born in a hospital. I deal with a lot of seniors that were not born in a hospital. Okay. So that's one. Two, a U.S. baptismal certificate, which if you were baptized, I was, but I have no idea where that certificate was.
Who keeps that?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen one framed. I haven't seen one, you know what I mean?
People used to do that, but I don't know that they're doing it anymore these days.
Right. I mean, I've seen pictures of the day when I was a baby, right? That's about it.
Okay.
And then,
so you were a baby at one point. We know this for sure.
Yes, correct. So then the other document they said is U.S. Census record of birth. I went to the Census Bureau to find that, and displayed on the birth records page is, we do not keep birth records. Go to your State Department of Vital Documents, vital records. So I don't know what this is. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what it is, but it says U.S. Census record of birth. They said they don't keep those records. So
okay.
I Right. So I don't know what that
You're
is.
right. These are not great options. But one thing I also will mention in passing is that this might be another reason, if you are online and you don't mind engaging online, to create a SSA.gov account, a My Social Security.gov account, because you can print off a copy of your Social Security card. You can get a benefits verification letter or a benefits, a verification statement. The SSA 1099 that you referred to earlier, Tracy, is the tax document that you get from the IRS verifying what income you got from Social Security. So you can get access to those things through SSA.gov if you have an account with them. So that would be a reason to set that up, because it's a one-stop shop, basically. So like you said, Tracy, people need to start thinking about this now. It's September. The date's May, not
Right.
March,
Yeah.
May. So we've got like 8 months, and this is a good time to start thinking about, do you have the documents that are needed? And if you don't, what can be done to get those documents? So let's say that you have collected all of the necessary documents. Then what happens?
You have collected?
Yeah, let's say
Yeah.
you've collected all of the
Okay.
documents. Then what happens?
All right. So once you've collected all the documents and confirmed that your name matches across all documents, this is very important. I'll be talking about name changes later, but make sure that your name is exactly the same on each one of the documents that you've collected. Okay. Then you go to the MBA's website, and you have to make an appointment online. You cannot call them. They will not take your call online. Okay. So you have to go online and the website is the nba.maryland.gov/ODG. That might appear on the screen.
That has appeared on the screen.
Okay. And then the ODG stands for Online Document Guide. The name isn't, to me, helpful. It doesn't say, here, make your appointment. Here, confirm you have all the documents and make an appointment. It's not easy to navigate. So I would have help if I were you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess nothing bad's going to happen if you go down the wrong tree, because it has a list to pick from, and then you pick from a list, and then another list to pick from, and it goes down. And if you confirm through those transactions on that document guide that you have everything that you need, then it will allow you to make an appointment.
Okay.
And so then you make an appointment, and then the MBA says you'll be there less than 15 minutes to complete your transaction, which is, well, you'll be seen within 15 minutes of your appointment, and it really doesn't take long after that. It's maybe you'll be there for 30 minutes tops. But make sure to look for the special line for appointment check-in when you get there, and not stand in the regular line. They stopped having a regular line for a while, right, because of the pandemic, but I'm assuming that's back to normal. I haven't been to the MBA in a while because I haven't needed to. And so that's what you do. And then you'll be issued your real ID. And I can't remember if they sent it to me in the mail. I think that's what they did. I don't remember. Do you, Karen?
No.
Yeah. I don't think they issue it to you right there. I don't think they do.
They may not. They may put. My guess is you're correct.
Right. I don't remember that now. It didn't come to me to think about how you got that, but
we should have taken notes 8 years ago when we were doing this, Tracy.
I know. So the MBA has a good page. It's the Real ID main page. There's lots of information there and has an FAQ site. It has a fact sheets for seniors, both in English and Spanish, that has that list of documents also that I told you that are alternate. There's a toolkit on there. There's frequently asked questions. It's all basically within one. Once you get to the Real ID main page, it's all there. So you just click to find what you need and answers to questions and things like that.
Awesome. Well, Tracy, I think we are just about out of time. So thank you so much. And
Sure.
for those of you who still have questions, you definitely need to go to the frequently asked questions. If your names are not the same across all documents, you need to look into that, and you need to take those additional steps to get information that's going to be verified by the MVA. And again, before May 3rd, 2023. After that point, if you do not have a real ID compliant type ID, then you won't be able to enter federal facilities, most of them, and you may not be able to get onto domestic flights. A little confusing, but just get compliant by May 3rd, 2023. That's the takeaway. So Tracy, thank you so much for taking the time to offer this really valuable information. We're getting comments in the chat saying it's really important. We definitely agree, and it's confusing. I mean, we're both attorneys, and we don't know what the heck's going on. So, that's why we need to have this discussion, so that people don't get caught unaware. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed doing it.
Thank you. And that wraps up our conversation on Real ID. Please tune in October when we're talking about scams. And until then, take care, everybody.
Take care.